Hello, I'm Richard, and this is Northeast Football Media. Hello, I'm Richard. Welcome back to Northeast Football Media. This is the latest edition of the Focus on Grassroots, and this is a very special edition, actually. Today, I'm speaking to Steve O'Donoghue, who not only is a football coach, but he's also an author of a book on grassroots football. So, Steve, welcome to the channel. Thanks for coming on today. You okay?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Just really wanted to start with a little bit about yourself, really, when you first got involved in grassroots football. And is it Signol Athletic that you're involved with now? Where did that all come about?
It is. Yeah, it's Signol Athletic I'm with now. I got involved, like most people, because of one of my kids. My eldest son started to play football at a club called Hattersley, under eights. So I started watching as a parent, and then I started to do their match reports, which they'd asked for a volunteer, and I started to do that and watched him for a couple of years. And they had an A and a B team, or a first and a second team, but they called them the Red and the Whites, and he was in the Whites, which was the B team effectively. I think it was just a stigma wise they didn't want to call them A and B teams. But when they got to 11s, it went to 11 aside. And the manager said, we're only going to go with one team, and your son, he's going to struggle to make that team in the nicest possible way. He said, so you might want to find another club. So I went to another club with him, found one called Hyde United it was. And he was at Hyde United for a year, and that was great. And the manager there asked if anyone could give him a hand. He was working on his own doing it. So I volunteered there really just to get a hand in and help out with training and basically putting cones down and picking balls up, etc. There was no coaching badges or anything to be done. It was just as a helping hand, really. And it was there where I first noticed the kind of bad side of grassroots, where he was having trouble with some of the parents and getting into a couple of arguments, etc., should we say, because of, I don't know, tactics or who was playing and who wasn't. And it was a bit naughty, really. And in the middle of one of the games, he just upped and left, and that was it. He went, and I didn't really want to take the team over because I'd seen what he'd gone through with these parents. He was unlucky; he just had some parents that were quite difficult to deal with. But in the game where that happened, it was against my son's old team, Hattersley. And afterwards, the manager rang me up and asked me what had happened, and I told him, and he said, "Well, why don't you bring the team to us and start the team again, but do it with us?" And that's what I did. I took the lads from Hyde United over to Hattersley because they had no manager or anything. And Hattersley put me through my level 1 and level 2 courses, and I stayed with them till under 16s, and then it eventually ended. By which time my youngest son was playing for a team called Signol, and they were looking for someone to coach his team. And I didn't want to do it, to be honest, because I'd already done it with one son, and I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing to have a dad as a coach. I don't know if it's always good, so I was a bit reluctant. But they didn't have anyone else, and that's how I got involved, really.
Oh, fantastic! I mean, just tell us a bit about the club then, Signol Athletic. Have they got quite a lot of teams through the different age groups?
They've got teams from soccer school, which is 4 and 5. To open age teams and vets teams. It's a really nice setup, actually. Their facilities are brilliant, especially where they train. They train at somewhere called Stockport Town, and it's state of the art, really. AstroTurf pitches. They've got 2 full-size pitches and lots of 7-a-side, 6-a-side, and 5-a-side pitches, and all the teams train together on the same night. They all wear the same training kits, and they all wear the same match day kits, obviously. But so on a Thursday night when all the teams train, it's exactly everyone is in the same kits, obviously, save the bibs and stuff. But it gives a real collectiveness, of a community club, really, where all the kids from the toddlers to the upper end age group are all training together. It's nice. It's a good idea, really, if you can get it like that.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I mean, are the facilities, are they owned by the club, or is it just rented off the council, or is it a school facility?
It's it's Woodley Sports Centre, which is a council-owned sports centre, I think. So it's a sports centre within itself where they have gymnastics and stuff like that, I think. But and some tennis courts, but predominantly it's a football-based place. But yeah, we rent it off them. Not cheap.
No. Nothing's cheap in football. I was going to come on to that actually. Obviously, there's a lot of expenses involved in running a football club and running a team as well. I mean, how much of a challenge has that been for your club and your team?
Well, interestingly enough, we had a Skype meeting or whatever you call them these days a couple of days ago to talk about the finances, because obviously we've had to stop all these subs because we can't have parents paying when the kids aren't playing. So there's been a lot of money lost. But having said that, we haven't had to spend on renting the pitches out, etc., at training and whatnot. But what we have just found out is that our local council are closing all the pitches at the end of May, and it was a bit of a surprise actually. I thought they were going to keep them open over the summer, so at least the boys and girls could play the season out, and that's going to be a bit of a struggle for us now. And what that means is we're going to have to play games in midweek games and weekend games to get everything finished. But luckily, the only good side of that is the council haven't charged us any money for renting the pitches. Personally, I'd rather that we paid to rent the pitches and got the seasons finished properly for the kids, because the kids have missed out. They're the ones that have missed out during all this time, unfortunately. It's quite sad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's been a bad year, really, hasn't it, for everybody with one thing and another. I mean, at the club, are they involved in quite a lot of community activities to get involved, get the local community involved, a lot of fundraising, things like that? Is that what a club does?
Well, what we used to do was at Woodley would have, because of we've got such a large amount of pitches, every summer we would put on a tournament that would last 2 days, and that would bring in masses of revenue for the club. Obviously, because it was such a huge deal, and teams would come from all over and play, and we would get food stalls in and drink stalls, etc. And so it was a real money spinner. Sadly, obviously, we weren't able to do that last season, and the season before, the sports centre had all the pitches resurfaced. So for 2 years we've not been able to do any fundraising at all, which is it's been a massive dent to the club. In terms of how the club's going to go forward to raise money, I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. I know in terms of sponsorship, it's like most teams, I imagine, most clubs, it's left down to the individual teams to try and get sponsorship if they can. We were quite lucky last year. What happened with us is we've had a couple of parents who have sponsored the team, which was quite nice. We needed some jackets, so we raised some money then by doing 10Ks and sponsored runs and stuff like that would be in the city, etc. And the season that we've just had, we didn't have a sponsor. We didn't have one, but we had a new kit deal with Puma. And Puma said to us, if you can't get a sponsor, if you will have Puma on the front of the Puma shirts, we will knock some money off. And that's how we got the deal, to be honest. It was quite good, actually. And the kids loved it because they all had these nice new Puma kits,
No, that sounds good. I mean, obviously, it is in normal circumstances, I guess, getting the money raised for all the equipment that you need is a challenge anyway, isn't it? But obviously with the lockdowns and with everything else that's gone on, it's been even more difficult, hasn't it, over the last year, as you said. I mean, from your own personal point of view, of course, I mean, you're not just involved in grassroots football on a coaching level. You've also written a book about it as well, haven't you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that came about almost by accident. It started, as I said earlier on, when I started doing the match reports for the teams. It just became, as those went on, I started to realise that more and more of the reports were about what was happening in and around the actual game, not the game itself. Because I'm sure, as you know, it can be quite comical on the side of a football pitch with lots of parents, etc., carers and relatives and stuff coming to watch kids, and it's quite amusing. And I started to sort of pick up on all these little tales and jot them down. And that became, I suddenly thought, I've got an awful lot of these little things that have happened at matches. and then there was obviously the darker side to it, where things weren't quite so nice with parents, and they were having a bit of a moan about stuff, shall we say. And it suddenly occurred to me that no one had actually written a book about grassroots football from the perspective of somebody that was involved in it as a parent and as a coach. And I thought, I think I'll give that a go. And that's exactly what I did. And the book itself covers a season with they were under 13s at the time at Hattersley. So it covers a season. But what I was aware of, I didn't want to write a book about a football team that nobody knew. So the feedback that I've had about it is that I've had people that have read it that aren't even football fans that have enjoyed it, because it's not actually about the matches and what the score was, etc. It's about what goes into the planning of it, you know, the sleepless nights that that we have trying to think who you're going to pick in your selection for these young kids, and just what goes on with parents and the players themselves, the referees, the subs. And it was easy to do, to be honest. I can't believe other people haven't done it. It's quite easy to do.
No, I mean, it sounds brilliant. I mean, I've seen sort of bits of it. It does look a great book, and I will put a link to the book in the description of the video as well, so people that might be interested. I mean, for me, anyone that's been involved in grassroots football will enjoy reading it, I'm sure. So that could be really good as well. I mean, obviously, you've been involved in grassroots football for quite a long time yourself. I mean, what's been your sort of best moments, really, of grassroots football?
That's a really good question. I mean, the easy thing would be to say the kids have got to a couple of cup finals, and they've won a couple, and they've lost a couple, or they've lost one. So I suppose they would be good and bad things in themselves. But it kind of becomes a little bit more than that. And I think for me, without it sounding like a cliche, it's taking kids that are maybe not the best of players, and the ones that you think might not be able to hack it, or they might not last, and then seeing them in a few months' time joking and being a bit of a clown, and suddenly you think, you know what, that's brilliant. That you've changed, you've sort of made an impression on someone, really. And I think it's about that. That's the thing for me. I remember when I was a kid, I can still remember the coaches I had. Someone said to me, it's a bit like your driving instructor. It's a massive privilege to be able to have a part in these kids' lives, and I think for me that's got to be the best part of it. It's not so much the winning. The winning's great, but the actual seeing a change and a development of the kid, not just as a footballer, but as a human being as well. I think it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to look at it, actually, as well, because like you said, I mean, maybe some people are more focused just on the results, and that's not always, like you said, the most important aspects of it. So that's good to hear as well. I mean, if you could change one thing about grassroots football at the moment, what would you change?
Wow. I think I'd like to see a little bit more money involved in it, really. It's always been strange for me, because I know a lot of people now play on AstroTurf, which was the devil when I was a kid, because it was just total skin shredder, wasn't it? But it's really good stuff now. Now I know that a lot of teams can't afford that facility. I mean, we play on grass when we play our matches, but obviously in the north of England, and playing football in winter it's a recipe for disaster almost. A couple of seasons ago, I think we went 4 months without playing a game. So I would like to see, if I could, it would be great if we could see more money pumped into grassroots from a government perspective. I know that's not going to happen soon, especially with the way things are. Maybe from an FA perspective, you know, if the money could come down to grassroots, that would be great. But I would also, and I know that people will say that, well, you've got to think about other sports, but I would love it if the football season was changed slightly and we weren't playing games in December and January and February. Maybe, you know, we were playing further into the summer if that was possible. I know people talk about school holidays and cricket and etc. But I just think, especially up in the north, it would be nice to have a little bit of, you know, a bit more football, a bit more fluid football week after week instead of 1 week on, 3 weeks off. You know, I'd like that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the aspects, I suppose, of this sort of latest lockdown is football's restarting again now, isn't it, in the next week or so at grassroots level. So I know you said there's a few issues with pitches later on, but they've extended the seasons into the end of June. So there is going to be almost summer football this year. Is that something that I say that you think maybe that they might end up maybe implementing that a little bit more in the future as well? Because I agree with you. When through the winter, too many games get cancelled, and you never catch them up there.
No, absolutely. You know, you are chasing your tail at the end. And unfortunately, what I found is that you can have a terrific start to a season, but then you've got all of a sudden you've got 6 games to play in a month, and you can't get some players because they're not available, or the parents can't get them there for 6 o'clock in the evening or whatever. And it doesn't become a waste, but it all seems a little bit unfair in that respect. And as I said to you, where we are now, the council have decided to shut the pitches anyway. What the league have done is they've tried to therefore play weekend games, and then if any of the games are played out of that council borough, which they are, they've swapped them around so those games will be away games if they have to go into June. But for the council to just turn around and say, I'm sorry, we're closing the pitches, they need time to rest, it just seems bizarre to me, because they've had all winter. But yeah, hopefully, maybe it is something that they'll learn from, and they will take the game a little bit longer than it usually lasts. It'd be lovely. It'd be lovely to watch a game in a t-shirt every now and again.
No, I agree. I definitely would. I mean, it's strange, isn't it? They say they want to rest the pitches when this winter they haven't been played on, so they'll be in a better state now this year than they would have been any other year, probably, wouldn't they? Because they've been sitting doing nothing for the last 3-4 months.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy decisions, but I guess that's the way it is. I mean, obviously, with as I said, football is going to be restarting for grassroots in the next couple of weeks. I mean, is your club, you got any special events planned, or are you just literally going to be just getting the games played?
It's just about getting the games played, really. We train on a Thursday night. I think the lockdown scenario ends on Monday, doesn't it? The 29th. So we've got our own training session on Monday just to get the kids back, because I think it's going to be impossible to get them training on Thursday before the weekend's match without them being incredibly giddy and stuff. So we've got them training on a Monday. We're just going to have a big mess about, kick about with them, and a bit of a laugh and a bit of a game, just so they can get back to seeing each other socially, and then hopefully try and do something a little bit more seriously on Thursday, and then you're straight into it with the first game on the Sunday. It's going to be chaos. I just hope there's not going to be any injuries.
Yeah, I mean, that's a problem, isn't it? It's almost like starting a new season. Usually you'd get a couple of weeks to have some friendlies and get prepared, whereas this literally it's going straight into it, isn't it? And yeah, I can see it being quite hectic for a couple of weeks, maybe, especially with midweek games as well. But I suppose at the end of the day, at least it's what we want. We want the football to be back, don't we? So we need to, be sort of pleased about that, really, and enjoy it. I mean, what's the thing that you're most looking forward to then about getting it back? Is it just literally seeing the kids playing again?
I think it is just seeing the kids playing again. Yeah, because I think what I always say to the parents is the great thing about football, and one of the kicks I get from it, is that the kids, the age they are, they have to go to school. That's the law. They don't have to come to me. They don't have to come to play football. They come because they want to. And, as I said before, what a privilege that is. And then so to see them turning up and getting excited and getting into, I just think it's going to be fantastic. It's what it's all about, so let's just let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great just to get the football back on again, isn't it? And I'm sure that the kids are going to love it as well. And like you said, meeting up with their friends again, having a run around and kicking the ball. Just for you, I mean, are your club there, are they quite active on social media? They have like Facebook or website that people could maybe contact the club if that's what they were wanting to do?
They have got a website, but I don't know it off the top of my head, which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? I'm sure if you put Signol Athletic into Google, it would come up. But sorry, useless.
No, that's fine. Is it? I mean, did the club sort of do a lot of promotion on social media then, or that's not really a big thing for the club?
It's not as big as it should be, really. I'd like to see the website a little bit more. I mean, I don't even know the person who does the website, to be honest with you. And I know that a lot of people have got a lot of other things going on, but I think that's the one thing I would say. The club needs a massive push in terms of social media, but I understand also that a lot of coaches aren't the best in communicating. You can only deal with what you're given, can't you? And I think a lot of the coaches find it difficult enough just to text the results in at the end of the match sometimes, especially if they've lost. So it's something that I would think they need to look into more, because it seems to be the best way to get yourselves out there as a club, isn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. It is. Yeah, a lot of people use social media now, and it's a good way to maybe attract sponsors as well and stuff
Yeah.
like that, which is important, to raise funds for the club. I mean, thanks for coming on today. So it's been brilliant. Just before you go, just give your book a plug again. What's the name of the book, and where can people get it?
The book's called Junior Football. It's Not a Man's Game, and it's available online at www.stevesbook.co.uk, which is quite an easy title. It's also available on Amazon, but it's cheaper on the website.
No problem. I'll say I will put a link to that in the description on the video as well, so people can just click through to that if they're interested in that. I say it does look like it's going to be a really good read that for anyone who's ever been involved in grassroots football. So, so good luck with that as well. I say thanks for taking the time to come on today, and I say good luck for the future and obviously the restart of the season as well. I hope the book goes well, and hopefully we'll speak again in the future.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been lovely to talk to you. So thanks very much.
So a big thank you there to Steve for coming on the channel today. Please make sure you check out his book. It's called Junior Football. It's Not a Man's Game. Very good book that is as well. So please check that out as well. I'll put a link in the description to the video. If you like what I'm doing on the channel, please give the videos a like. Please subscribe to the channel as well. I've got a lot more similar interviews coming up over the next week or so, focusing on clubs in grassroots football, mainly in the Northeast, but I say occasionally other people as well, such as Steve today. Once football's up and running again, obviously in the next week or so, I will be out doing videoing highlights. If you'd like your club featured, please contact me. You can see the details on the screen now. I say stay tuned to the channel for loads more great stuff coming up as we move back into this restart of grassroots football. Don't forget to subscribe and like. This is Northeast Football Media.